day.
Ballot item number 36, Order M98, second reading of Bill 98, an act to amend the Child Care and Early Years Act 2014 to limit funding of child care and early years programs and services to not-for-profit corporations. Ms. Fife.
The member for Kitchener-Waterloo.
Madam Speaker, I move second reading of Bill 98, an act to amend the Child Care and Early Years Act 2014 to limit funding of child care and early years programs and services to the not-for-profit corporations.
Ms. Fife has moved second reading of Bill 98, an act to amend the Child Care and Early Years Act 2014 to limit funding of child care and early years programs and services to nonprofit organizations. Pursuant to Standing Order 98, the member has 12 minutes for a presentation.
Thank you very much, Madam Speaker. I'd like to begin by welcoming Councillor Janet Davis, a longtime child care advocate, to the Queen's Park. So, Madam Speaker, 8 years ago I sat in this gallery and I watched as Andrea Horvath at the time, who was not the leader, but made an impassioned plea to the Liberal government of the day to focus funding on the not-for-profit sector. She urged the government to push back against big-box corporate child care businesses who were lobbying to expand their market share into Ontario. I was here with the Ontario Coalition for Better Childcare, and I am privileged to be here today to stand in my place and to once again raise the issue and the importance of investing any new funding exclusively in the not-for-profit model of childcare, and I will focus today on the main argument, which is quality. I will also address almost 30 years of research and evidence which directly links the quality of early learning and care to the not-for-profit model, 30 years of research that in 2017 should not be ignored, as it was in 2008. I will also address the importance and connection between access and affordability. Now, why is this legislation important? The government has promised to add 100,000 childcare spaces, and because Ontario does not have a comprehensive system of early learning and care, there is an opportunity to design a system with quality at the centre, minus a profit agenda which will compromise access and affordability. Now, the minister will tell you that we need commercial operators in rural and northern communities. That's all the choice they have. She forgets to mention that this is this government's fault, that it is their only choice in those communities, and we need to change that. She will also fail to mention that commercial operators have accelerated their expansion in the GTA, in Vaughan, in Markham, in Brampton, in Mississauga. They are charging exorbitant rates. They are delivering poor quality care, but families have no choice in those communities because this government has no plan and has failed families and children on childcare for too long. On quality, and this minister and this government knows this well, because the number of formal complaints that the ministry has received about nutrition, about safety, about supervision, and yes, even critical incident reports about excessive discipline of children in these for-profit centres. This knowledge needs to inform policy. These commercial operators are businesses. They care about money. They see an opportunity with this government to expand. They want to grow in the absence of courage to build a system of care with children at the centre. And I will tell you, Madam Speaker, that there is a lot of money on the table, and they see opportunity with this government. I have one message for the minister. The parents in Ontario are not interested in poor quality care. They want the best, and their children deserve the best, Madam Speaker. So we need to have some context. We are exactly in the same place we were in over a decade ago, with only 1 out of 5 families having access to licensed childcare. In 2008, there was just under 20% of families had access to licensed childcare. In 2017, that statistic has not significantly changed. Affordability is a dream for families, and across the province, our families are paying the highest child care prices across the country. In fact, in Ontario, they pay on average $150 more per month. The average monthly fee for a preschooler aged 3 to 5 in Toronto is over $1,000, in Markham over $1,000, in Ottawa $1,000, in Vaughan over $1,000. Another reason why this legislation is needed, in January 2012, and this is a significant change from the 2008 bill, the government moved the responsibility of childcare under the Ministry of Education. This is a significant and hopefully not symbolic. We do not farm out the delivery of public education to the private sector. We should clearly indicate that early learning and care of our most vulnerable citizens, our children, should be recognized as a public good, not a service for purchase agreement with a built-in profit quota. We wouldn't dream of expanding our school system through private businesses, and neither should we rely on for-profit corporations to care for our youngest and most vulnerable children, Madam Speaker. Now, on quality, research and evidence should matter. Research dating from 1986, the first report from Martha Friendly at the time, Daycare for Profit. Where does the money go? Well, we do know where the money doesn't go, Madam Speaker. It doesn't go to materials. It doesn't go to ECU training. It doesn't even go to nutrition. Doherty Friendly 4, 2012, childcare by default or by design. In Ontario, it has been by default. These researchers showed that the lower quality ratings of for-profit childcare centres were not only a matter of access to financial resources, but due to some of their fundamental practices, for-profit corporations typically hire proportions of untrained staff and pay them lower wages. This results in higher staff turnover and lower morale, which affects quality. Cleveland, Heil, Japel, and Krasinski, an economic perspective on the current and future role of non-profit provisions, strong patterns of non-profit superiority in producing quality childcare services across all data studied. And of course, Charles Pascal, otherwise known as he who shall not be named these days, he essentially did propose a not-for-profit hybrid universal system of care with the seamless day. The Child Care Resource and Research Unit has been invaluable, and they have been tracking the data that should inform legislation. Research says that public and non-profit childcare provides a higher quality of childcare than for-profits do. Often, staff in the not-for-profit childcare centres are more well-trained, their wages are higher, their working conditions are better, they have access to professional development, morale is higher, turnover is lower, they are better at complying with regulations, they have more favourable child-to-staff ratios, and they reinvest their programs instead of making the most money for their shareholders. Virtually all available research shows being a for-profit operation is a key factor linked to lower quality. This matters, Madam Speaker. All of this research leads to a simple conclusion. In the pursuit of profit, for-profit commercial childcare corporations are more likely to cut costs when it comes to staffing, supplies, and equipment. And so we have the evidence that should guide policy and legislation. We have the qualitative research. The voices of parents in this province have been loud and clear on this issue. And we have, I'll share my personal experience. I started my career as an activist when I became a parent of Aiden at Ord Street Daycare, a not-for-profit childcare centre here in Toronto. That was an eye-opening experience, the cost of it, but I was willing to pay the cost because these great people, these early childhood educators were taking care of my son. What more important job is there? If I couldn't do it, I want qualified people to do that work as well. But when I moved to Kitchener-Waterloo, it was all business all the time. And there was only one place I could find childcare, and they had a sales pitch, a little peekaboo option. So I could come to Toronto and I could go on the computer and I could look into that infant care room, and I could literally see that there was a different ECE every single day with my son. And so I was paying to actually see how unhappy my child was. And so I left the workforce, like many women across Ontario, because they do not have options. And we can do better in Ontario, and we must do better, Madam Speaker. It's worth noting that we are so far behind. Every dollar that is invested in childcare on a go-forward position needs to go to improving access, to ensuring quality and addressing affordability, something that this government has said they care about. But they will not build that system if it goes to the profits of commercial operators instead of increased spaces, instead of increased quality. In Toronto alone, There are approximately 17,000 children on a waiting list for affordable childcare. If this government moved forward with intention and purpose to design a system focused on a not-for-profit delivery model, if you don't embed profits for commercial childcare businesses into the system, there will be more money for subsidies to improve access for our poorest families in the province of Ontario. If you don't focus on the for-profit model, we can reduce fees and invest in special needs strategy for our youngest children. Our childcare system is not inclusive in the province of Ontario. We can create more spaces if you don't focus on the for-profit model, and we can finally address the early childhood educators' remuneration in a real way, Mr. Speaker. The City of Toronto have made a principled decision to invest in quality by investing only in the not-for-profit model. We believe strongly that the province should follow. I will mention that what this bill cannot do. This bill cannot address the need for sustainable funding because it's a private member's bill. This bill cannot impact the leadership on capital costs, which are a huge issue across the province. This bill can't address the special needs funding so every child can access quality settings, because I can't direct where the province sends their money. But what this bill can do is signal to the not-for-profit operators across the province that you are serious about truly creating a quality system of childcare across the province of Ontario. And I certainly can't make this government follow through on their $3 promise to increase for early childhood educator salaries, which they did not follow through on, Madam Speaker. So to the early childhood educators in the province of Ontario, I see you more as helping hands and smiling faces. I see you as some of the most important teachers in society. We know that your jobs help shape the potential of our society. We thank you for caring for our most vulnerable children, growing our future leaders, our economy, and essentially addressing the fight for equality in Ontario. And what I would urge the government to do, plead even, that this government signals today that you are serious about creating a system of care in the province of Ontario. You have a certain amount of money on the table that you have promised. That money, every single dollar, needs to go to quality childcare, not to the profit margins of operators. We need to finally create a truly inclusive and universal system of care in the province of Ontario. This bill is the first step to that. It is all I can do today. I would do more. Please support Bill 98 and support quality, not-for-profit childcare in the province of Ontario.